The theme of Paradise Lost by H.W. Peck explores Milton's epic poem and examines its meaning, significance, and the various ways it has been interpreted by critics over time. Peck's primary aim is to provide a clearer understanding of the poem, especially in the light of modern criticisms that challenge Milton's literal interpretation of biblical events. He begins by discussing the two main perspectives on Paradise Lost that have dominated literary criticism. The first perspective, widely accepted for a long time, views the poem as a theological and historical epic. According to this view, Milton's work narrates real events from Christian theology, including the creation, the fall of man, and the rebellion of angels. Early critics, including Samuel Johnson, Dennis, and Addison, admired Milton for presenting these events as truth, believing that the substance of the poem was historically accurate and morally instructive. The second major perspective emerged in the 19th century when advances in science and biblical criticism made it difficult for many readers to accept the literal truth of Milton's narrative. Critics such as Edmund Schroer argued that the fame of Paradise Lost lies not in its historical content but in the grandeur, beauty, and sublimity of its style. According to this view, Milton's epic is primarily a work of imaginative and artistic excellence. Rather than a literal account of historical events, many critics in this camp considered the poem symbolic or allegorical, focusing on its themes rather than the literal truth of its narrative. Peck then examines the symbolic and allegorical interpretations of Paradise Lost. Some critics have suggested that Saturn is the central hero of the poem, representing the struggle for freedom against authority. Romantic poets like Byron and Shelley admired Milton's portrayal of Satan as a bold and defiant character, seeing him as a symbol of rebellion and liberty. Other interpretations view the poem as exploring the ideal of pastoral life in Eden, presenting an image of harmony and innocence that humans have lost. Still others see the work as a political allegory, reflecting Milton's own time and personal beliefs, where Satan represents the Roman Church and Adam and Eve symbolize the Protestant Christian world. Scholars such as E.N.S. Thompson have argued that Paradise Lost is a philosophical exploration of the struggle between good and evil, a moral allegory that conveys enduring truths about human life and ethical conduct rather than a literal historical account. Peck disagrees with these allegorical interpretations, particularly Thompson's, because he believes they fail to capture Milton's intentions and misrepresent the poem's historical and theological dimensions. Milton genuinely believed in the historical reality of the events he depicted, including the literal creation of the world, the existence of angels and demons, and the fall of man. Peck supports this by citing Milton's own writings, particularly his essays on Christian doctrine, which reveal that he viewed scripture as divinely inspired and historically accurate. According to Milton, biblical events were factual and poetic imagination was a tool to make spiritual and supernatural realities understandable to human readers. While Milton used imagery, metaphor, and symbolism in his epic, Peck emphasizes that these devices were not meant to create allegorical meaning divorced from reality. They were intended to make complex spiritual truths more comprehensible. Milton's contemporaries also accepted the existence of a personal devil and supernatural beings, so his references to demons and fallen angels would have been taken as serious theological claims, not mere personifications. Milton believed that poetry could convey objective truths, and he identified his muse, Urania, with divine inspiration, seeing himself as a medium through which God communicated profound spiritual and moral lessons. Even when Milton incorporated elements from classical mythology, such as references to Mulciber and Vulcan, he did so with understanding that these pagan figures represented fallen angels or deceptive spirits, not true gods. This blending of biblical and classical imagery allowed Milton to frame spiritual truths in a rich and imaginative literary context. Peck also explains that modern readers may struggle to accept Milton's theological beliefs as literal truth, but understanding his historical and religious context is crucial to appreciating Paradise Lost. Milton's audience largely shared this belief in a literal heaven and hell, angels and demons, and divine providence. To dismiss these elements as mere allegory is to overlook the poem's original significance and the intellectual and spiritual framework within which Milton worked. At the same time, Peck acknowledges the value of later criticism, including Thomson's, in highlighting the moral, philosophical, and symbolic dimensions of the poem. These interpretations enrich the understanding of Paradise Lost, but Peck insists they should complement rather than replace the historical and theological perspective. Peck presents Paradise Lost as a grand, carefully structured epic that combines a biblical worldview with poetic genius. He portrays the poem as a work of historical and theological fact intended to instruct, inspire, and convey Milton's moral and spiritual vision. At the same time, it is an imaginative masterpiece employing elevated language, complex imagery, and metaphysical ideals to communicate profound truths. Peck concludes that the enduring greatness of Paradise Lost lies in its ability to speak to a wide audience, offering layers of meaning that appeal to readers of different intellectual, moral, and spiritual perspectives. Its combination of historical fidelity, poetic beauty, and philosophical depth ensures that it remains a central work in English literature, admired for both its content and its form. By approaching Milton's work with an appreciation for his historical and theological intentions, scholars and readers can gain a more complete understanding of the epic and the vision behind it.